Hi there, are you ready to dive into the world of databases and learn how to manage and manipulate data like a pro? Welcome to Master MySQL for Beginners. My name is Sam Obiri and I will be your guide on this exciting journey into the world of MySQL. Till date, I have taught thousands of students programming online and on-site. In this course, we'll start from the very basics. Whether you have no prior experience with databases or you've dabbled a bit, this course is designed to take you from a complete beginner to a confident MySQL user. Here is what you will learn in this course: setting up your MySQL environment, understanding database concepts and terminology, performing essential CRUD operations, that is create, read, update and delete, writing and executing SQL queries, designing databases, connecting to MySQL from popular programming languages like Python, Node.js and PHP, and other advanced topics. Then you will get hands-on experience with real-world projects and examples, ensuring that you not only understand the theory but also know how to apply it in practice. You might be asking, why should I learn MySQL? MySQL is one of the most widely used database management systems in the world. It is a critical skill for anyone looking to work in data analysis, web development, or software engineering. By mastering MySQL, we open up numerous opportunities in tech, data science, and beyond. And don't worry, we are going to make this learning journey fun and engaging. You will have access to comprehensive lectures, detailed code examples, and interactive quizzes to test your knowledge. So, what are you waiting for? Join me in this course and take your first step towards mastering database management. Click the Enroll button now and let's get started on this exciting learning adventure together. I can't wait to see you inside the course. Today, we'll be diving into the basics of databases. Let's start with the very fundamental question: what is a database? A database is an organized collection of data generally stored and accessed electronically from a computer system. Databases are designed to manage large bodies of information. They allow users to store, retrieve, and manipulate data efficiently. There are different types of databases, such as Relational Database Management System, short for RDBMS. A relational database management system is a type of database management system that stores data in a structured format using rows and columns. The data is stored into tables which can be linked or related to each other through keys. Examples of RDBMS are MySQL, PostgreSQL, Oracle, etc. Another type of databases is NoSQL databases. NoSQL uses various data models, including document, key value, graph, or column family. And examples of NoSQLs are MongoDB, Redis, Cassandra. And then we have the last type of database called in-memory databases. And these databases store data in memory for fast access. A table is a fundamental structure in a database consisting of rows and columns. Rows are individual data entries in a table. Columns or fields define the type of data stored in each row. Primary keys are unique identifier for a row in a table, and foreign keys are used to link between tables in order to establish relationships. There are so many real-world examples of databases, such as e-commerce websites. In e-commerce websites, databases store product information, user accounts, and other histories. They are also used in banking systems to manage account information, transactions, and customers' details. Another real-world example is social media platforms. Databases such as MySQL are used to store user profiles, posts, comments, and interactions. They are also used in healthcare systems to maintain patient records, appointments, and medical histories. Now that we have a basic understanding of what databases are, let's focus on MySQL. MySQL is one of the most popular relational database management systems in use today. MySQL is an open source relational database management system. It was initially developed by MySQL AB, a Swedish company, and is now owned by Oracle Corporation. Here are some of the key features of MySQL. MySQL is free to use and modify with a large community of users and developers. MySQL is cross-platform. That means it runs on various operating systems, including Windows, Mac, and Linux. MySQL is also known for its speed and reliability in handling large volumes of data. MySQL is scalable, capable of handling small-scale applications as well as large enterprise solutions. MySQL offers strong data protection features, including user authentication and access control. There are 3 editions of MySQL. The Community Edition, which is free and open source version and is suitable for most applications. We have the Enterprise Edition, which is a paid version with additional features like advanced security, performance monitoring, and support. And then we have MySQL Cluster, which is designed for high availability and high applications supporting real-time performance. In this course, we will focus on the community version. MySQL has a client-server architecture or model. MySQL operates on a client-server model where the server handles the database and clients or users connect to it to make queries. MySQL uses different storage engines to store data. The default one is InnoDB, which supports transactions and foreign keys. Other storage engines include MySQL, which is widely used storage engine known for its speed and full text search capability. There are 4 components that we need to note in MySQL. We have the MySQL server, the connectors, MySQL Workbench, and utilities. The MySQL server is a core component that handles database management. Connectors enable communication between MySQL and various programming languages such as PHP, Python, Java, etc. MySQL Workbench is the GUI or graphic user interface tool for database design, development, and administration. In this course, we'll be using MySQL Workbench. However, there are other graphic user interface for database management such as PHPMyAdmin. But in this course, we'll focus on MySQL Workbench. Utilities are command line tools for various administrative tasks. Companies like Facebook uses MySQL to store user data, posts, and interactions. Twitter leverages MySQL for storing tweets and user information. Uber utilizes MySQL to manage trip data, user profiles, and transactions. So, MySQL ability to handle high transaction volumes and its scalability make it ideal for both startups and large companies. Thank you for joining me in this lecture. In the next session, we will learn how to set up MySQL on your computer and start working with it. See you next time. MySQL Workbench is a graphical tool used to design, administer, and manage MySQL databases. It is an integrated development environment that allows developers, database administrators, and data analysts to work with MySQL database more efficiently. In this movie, we are going to learn how to install up-to-date MySQL Workbench on Windows, which includes MySQL Server, MySQL Workbench, and MySQL Shell. So the first thing we need to do is to fire up our favorite browser and type MySQL on the Google search bar. Then on the result page, I'm going to click on the first link to visit the official Oracle website, which is mysql.com. On the top menu bar, I will click on the Downloads tab. Then scroll down and click on MySQL Community GPL Downloads. Then MySQL Installer for Windows. Select your operating system from the drop-down. Choose your installer and click Download. Next, you may be asked to create a new account or log in to an existing one. You can skip this by clicking No thanks, just start my download, and the download will begin. Once the installer has downloaded, go to your download folder and open it to begin the installation. You may be prompted for permissions. Click Yes to continue. You will be asked to choose the setup type. We will go with a custom. We will install only the MySQL server, the MySQL workbench, and MySQL shell. Expand MySQL servers. Select the server you want to install and pop it to the product features. Do the same thing for applications and install MySQL workbench and as well MySQL shell. Click Next. Now the selected products will be installed. Click Execute to download and install the server and MySQL workbench. This may take a while depending on your internet speed. Once that's done, click Next. We now configure our SQL Server instance. Go with the default settings here and click Next. Set the password for your root user. This user will have access to everything. Click Next and keep the default settings for the next steps. Click Execute. Once all the configuration steps are complete, click Finish. Congratulations, you have successfully installed MySQL Server, MySQL Workbench, and MySQL Shell on your Windows computer. After installation, you may be presented with a pop-up of the MySQL Shell if you want to use the command line interface for MySQL. But for now, I'm going to minimize it or close it and proceed with the graphical interface. On the graphical interface is the home screen, which is the first screen you see when you launch MySQL Workbench. It provides access to various features of MySQL Workbench, such as creating new connections, opening existing connections, creating new models, and opening recent models. Hi friends, and welcome to this movie. In this movie, I'm going to guide you through the interface of MySQL Workbench. So here on my desktop, I'll simply click on the MySQL Workbench icon in my tags bar. And this will open the MySQL Workbench interface. So here we are presented with a home screen which we can manage our connections. So currently we have a local instance of MySQL created in the last movie. So I'm just going to click on the local instance and I'll be asked to enter my password and then click OK. Here it opens up the MySQL Workbench main window. So here we can see a lot of panels on the right, on the left, and on the bottom. So on the left hand side we have the navigator, and the navigator has two tabs, which is administration and then schema. The administration tab provides tools for managing the MySQL server, such as configuring server settings, creating and managing users, and managing backup and recovery operations. Now, for example, if I click on the server status, so here we can see an overview of our server, and this will open in a new tab. So you can see the name of our server, local instance, the server status, and all of that. Next, on the navigator, we have the schema. So I'm just going to close this tab because we are done with it. So we have the schema. Now the schema displays a visual representation of your database. So you can use it to view and modify database objects, relationships, and indexes. So here you can see we have tables, views, stored procedures, and functions. And here at the top are what we call the toolbar. The toolbar provides quick access to frequently used features of MySQL Workbench, such as executing queries, saving models, and generating SQL scripts. So here you can see, if I hover my mouse on this, here you can see create a new SQL tab for executing query. So if I click on that, so you can see that's created an SQL tab. And this SQL tab is basically the SQL editor in the middle, and the SQL editor is where we can create and execute SQL queries. So if I write SQL right here, just on my cursor, which we are going to do in the next video, I can execute the SQL right here. So I'm going to write an SQL statement or code, and then I can execute it right here. So I'm just going to close this tab, don't save, and here we go. There are other toolbars such as creating a new schema, use a database, or create new table, and all of that. Then at the bottom we have the output panel. The output panel displays messages, errors, and warnings generated by MySQL Workbench. So these are the main components of the MySQL Workbench interface. By familiarizing yourself with these components, you'll be able to navigate and use MySQL Workbench more efficiently. Hello friends, and welcome to this movie. In this movie, we're going to learn the use database statements and equally the show database statement. So just to minimize distraction, I'm going to delete this, and then you may have multiple database in your SQL schema, and before starting your operation you will need to select a database where all operations will be performed. For example, if I select the school DB, so you can see the currently selected schema is the school DB. If I select system, you can see the currently selected schema is system. So apart from using the mouse to click and then make a selection, we also have an SQL command, which is use. So to do this, I'm going to say use followed by the schema or the database I want to use. So for this example, I want to use the school DB, just like this, and then I'm going to hit on execute. So here you can see that the school DB has been selected and also has been expanded using the command. So with this, any future operations will only affect the school DB. Then another way we can display or view our database on the result panel is by writing the database command show databases. So I'm just going to comment on this, and then I'm going to say show databases. So now if I execute this, and here we go. So here we have some databases. So you can see these ones comes by default installation of MySQL Workbench, and here we have our database created earlier, school DB. So I'm just going to bring this down a bit so we can see this clearly, and here we go. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Hello friends, and welcome to this movie. In this movie, we are going to learn how to create table using the create table statement. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to close this tab and then make sure that your school DB is selected. So I'm just going to wipe away this, and then I'm going to start my create table statement. So I will say create table followed by the name of the table we want to create. So we want to create a table on the school DB. So that's why the school DB is selected. So next we are going to enter the name of the table. So we can create as many tables as possible inside the school DB. So the first table I want to create, I'm going to call it students, followed by a parenthesis. So inside the parenthesis, I'm going to specify the different columns in my table. So the first column, I'm going to call it ID, and this should be separated by comma. And then the next one, I want to call it first name, first underscore name. It's recommended that your table names or columns should be descriptive. Next, this is going to be last underscore name, and then finally we have the entry underscore date. Now in order to make this more readable, I'm going to break this into a new line. And here we go. So you notice that the last column name do not have a comma. So that's because it's the last. So every other ones that proceed the last should be separated by a comma. Next, we are going to specify the type of data each column is going to accept. So the first one is going to accept an integer. So I'm just going to say int, which is short for integer. Next is a constraint. So here we have the column name, we have the type of data is going to accept, and then next is the constraint. So I'm going to say primary key, just like this. Yeah, and the reason why I specify the primary key is because I want this column ID to be unique. I want it to be distinctive. I want it to be an identifier. So for example, let's say a driver's license. Everyone has a unique number or a driver's license number that identifies each person. So that is an example of a primary key. Next, on the first name, I want this to be a varchar, which is a variable character. So that is going to be the data type. Next, the constraint is going to be, before the constraint, I'm going to specify the maximum number this column is going to accept. So I want it to accept not more than 100. So if you are using the varchar, you specify the number you want this colon to accept. So that's the number of characters. But on integer, it's not required. But on varchar, you have to specify the number. Next is the constraint. So I don't want this to be empty, so I'm going to say not null. So I'm just going to copy this and equally have that here. Then on the entry date, I'm going to specify the data type to this column as date, and I want to make sure it's not null or empty. Then make sure you end or close this statement with a semicolon. Now we can run the statement, and here we go. We have successfully created our student table. We can also verify this by going to the schema, and then I'm going to refresh the schemas or databases, then tables, and here it is, students. If we expand it further, we will see the table definitions right here and here. Hi friends, and welcome to this movie. In the last movie, we were able to create the table students on the school DB database. So if we want to show the structure of this database table in the server, we use the SQL command describe. For example, I'm just going to comment this, and then I'm going to say describe followed by the table name we want to describe in the school DB database. So I want to describe the student table we just created. So students, and then a semicolon. So now if I execute the query, and here we go, we are presented with the information about the table and the attribute related to it. So here we can see the different fields created: ID, first name, last name, entry date. And here you can see the different data types that we specified, not null. So here we can see the primary key. So whenever we want to view the structure of a given table, we use the describe statement. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. Hello friends, and welcome to this movie. In this movie, we are going to learn how to use the show create table statement. This query actually shows or displays the statement used in creating a specific table, and this will display the statements along with the clauses used. So for example, let's say we want to view or display the statement used in creating the student table. So I'll simply enter the syntax So I'll simply enter the syntax show create table followed by the name of the table I want to display. So I want to display the student table. Now if I execute this, and here we go. So here you can see the table called students. Here we have the syntax or the statement used in creating that table. The show create table statement is helpful or handy, especially if we want to create a new table with the same definitions. So I will simply click on this and then toggle the wrapping of the cell. So if I click on this, so here we have it. So what I can do is I'm going to copy this and then comment on this. I'm going to close this tab and down below here I'm going to paste that. So here you can see the statement used in creating the student table, but in a standard way. So this is the standard syntax for creating a table. So you can see we have the ID, which we specified as a primary key. And primary key constraint also means that the colon or field should not be null. So it's specified not null right here, and then equally used the constraint in the ID colon or field. And then it went further to specify the type of engine, which is InnoDB, the default chassis, and all of that. So all these are not required to create a table from scratch, just like we did. And then it also included a backtick. Now this backtick, you can choose to include it or you can ignore it. So right now we're going to use this to create a new table. So let's call this table parents, just like this. So parents. So now I'm going to execute this, and here we go. This was successful. So if I click on this, and this is going to collapse this, I can simply comment this. So now if I want to verify this, I can simply enter the describe table statement, describe parent. Now if I run this, and here you can see that we have the same table definition, just like the student table. Thank you for watching, and I would love to see you in the next movie. Hello friends, and welcome to this movie. In this movie, we are going to explore another way we can copy the table definitions to create a new one. So without copying the create table statement, we can use the like clause. So for example, if I enter the syntax, create table, and then I'm going to enter the new table I want to create. So this time I want to create a table for teachers. So create table teachers, and then the like clause, like our previous table which we created as parents. So if I go to the DB, so you can see we have a student table. So if I refresh, so here you can see we have the parent table. So we want to create another table, a new table called teachers, and I want to retain all the definitions we have in the parent. So let's say like parent and then semicolon. So now if I hit the execute, so here you can see the table create statement is successful. Now let's verify the table definitions. So I'm going to say describe teachers. So this is going to describe the teachers table. If I run this, and here we go. So you can see we have the same definitions like the parents, but now the table is called teachers. Thank you for watching this movie, and I hope to see you in the next. Hello friends, and welcome to this movie. In this movie, we are going to learn how to alter tables in MySQL using the alter table command. The SQL alter table command is used to add, delete, or modify columns in an existing table. You could also use this to add, drop various constraints. For example, let's say we want to alter the students table and add a colon password to it. So I'll simply type the following syntax: alter table, followed by the name of the table. So this time I want to alter the student table, and I'm going to enter the second line so our code can be readable. So So I'm going to say add colon, and the colon name I want to add is password. And after that, I'm going to specify the type of data. So in this case, it's going to be virtual. And the maximum number or the maximum character for this is going to be 10. And then I will end my SQL statement with a semicolon. So now let's execute the query. So from the output window, so we can see we have no error. So everything went successfully. So now I'm going to comment on this, and then let's verify this by entering the describe command. Describe, and we want to describe the student table. So if I run this, and here we go. So you can see that a new column has been added to our student table. So here we go, password. And because we did not specify not null, so you can see null is yes. So that means this column can be empty. You can further change this by equally using the alter table command. Let's try another example. So I'm going to copy this, and this time let me uncomment it. This time I want to add a new column, state, but the column is going to be after the last name. So you can see we have the ID, first name, last name, entry date, and password. But this time I want to specify the position of the column. So I'm going to say add this after last name, last underscore name. So this statement is going to add a new column or field, and let's call the field state. So if we run this query, and here we go. So you can see the query was successful, and then it equally ran the describe students. So this is how we can alter tables in SQL. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. Hello friends, and welcome to this movie. In this movie, we shall be looking at the alter table modify colon command. Now this is useful when we need to change the data type of a column. For example, let's say I want to modify the password field of the student table. I will enter the syntax alter table followed by the name of the table, which is students, and then I want to modify the password field, and I want to change that to integer with 10 characters maximum. So now if I execute this, and then I'm going to comment on this so I can verify the results. Describe student. And here we go. So the password field has been changed to type integer. Let's try more example. Let's say we want to drop a given field. So I'll simply say alter table, and I want to alter the student table. Now I want to drop a colon. I want to drop the password colon. So I'm going to copy this. I equally want to drop the state colon. So these two commands are going to run simultaneously. and then the describe will run. So now if I execute this command, now for any reason this does not run at your end, so all you need to do is you can comment one of them and then you run them one after the other. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next movie. Hello friends, and welcome to this movie. In this movie, we are going to cover how to rename a table in SQL using the rename table and alter table statement. There are some situations where database administrators or users may want to change the name of a table because they want to give it a more relevant name or for any other reason. First of all, I'm going to use the show table command so we can know all the tables we have in our database. So I'm going to say show tables, just like this, and then I'm going to click on execute. So here you can see we have the parent table, the student table, and then the teachers table. So if I want to rename, let's say I want to rename the teachers table to principals, so I can simply enter the syntax rename table, and then I want to rename the teachers table to principals, and after that I want to show the table. So if I execute this, and here we have it. So you can see that the rename table statement has changed the teachers table to principals. Then if I want to drop a table in SQL, I will simply say drop table, and this time let's drop the principal table. Now the principal table is going to be deleted with all the data associated to it, but currently we do not have data inside of the principals table, so we can simply delete it. So drop table followed by the name of the table. So we want to drop the principals table, just like this, and after that we are going to show the tables. So now if I run the query, so I'm going to erase the show table, and then I'm going to run the drop table statement again. So if I run that, so drop table 0 affected. So if we refresh, so you can see the table has been dropped. So we can equally run the show tables. So we'll say show tables. So if I run this, so here we go. So we can see that the principals table has been deleted successfully. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Hello friends, and welcome to this section. In this section, we shall be starting with how to insert data or records into our table or database table. But first, we are going to use a select statement to fetch or to verify if data is actually in our database table. So to read or fetch data from our database table, I'll simply type select followed by the different columns I want to read from or fetch data from. So the first one is ID, comma, and then we have the first name, comma, then I want to read from the last name, and then finally I want to read from entry date. Next, I'm going to say from, followed by the table I want to fetch the data. So I want to fetch the data from the student table. So now if I run this, and here we go. So you can see the ID colon is null, the first name is null, the last name is null, and the entry date is null. This means that we have no data in these columns. And you can see that the data being returned is in form of result table called result set. So the result set is based on how many columns I want to return. So we have just 4 columns: the ID, first name, last name, and entry date. And here we have it. So if I want to return the entire column or data from my table, I will simply say select star. And what star means is that it's going to return the columns or rows existing in our table. So select star from students. So now if I run this, so here you can see the first result was just the ID, the first name, the last name, and then the entry date. But when we specify star, it's going to return all the columns existing in our database. So here you can see we have the ID, first name, last name, state, and entry date. So this is how we fetch or read data from our table. Now let's try to insert some data into this table. So to do that, I'm going to use insert into statement. So I will say insert into the student table. Next, we'll specify a parenthesis. And in the parenthesis, I'm going to specify the different columns I want to get my data into. So I want to get my data into the ID, and I want to insert into the first name, comma, I will insert into the last name, and equally insert into the entry date. Maybe I should also insert on the state. So make sure your columns are separated by comma, except the last one. And after that, we have the keyword values, followed by a parenthesis. Then inside the value, so I'm going to enter the values that will be inserted into these columns. Make sure it is wrapped inside a quote. So I'm going to specify 1. I can simply say 1, comma, and then in the first name, I'm going to specify John, comma, and then in the last name, I'm going to specify Doe, John Doe. And then in the state, maybe John Doe is from USA. And then finally, the entry date, I'm going to specify 2023, 5th, and then 11th. Make sure all your values are enclosed in a quote. And then finally, I'm going to end my statement. So if I run this, and here we go. So here we can see that we have successfully inserted some data in our database table. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.